Well, good evening, everyone, and this is the season finale of the Coach Mcvay Show, Week 16 edition. DeMarco Farr, J.B. Long, the head coach of the Los Angeles Rams. Of course, 2 regular seasons remaining for his group at Arizona, home to San Francisco. Sean, 24 hours later, how did it look as you kind of rehashed it with your group here at the facility?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we can look at and clean up, and there was some good stuff too that we fought back, gave ourselves a chance to get back in that game, and we put ourselves beyond the 8 ball, falling behind, and really it's mainly a result of the turnovers, and that's something that we've got to do a better job of as we move forward. But I thought our guys demonstrated the mental toughness, being a resilient group to give ourselves a chance, and ultimately we didn't do enough at the end to get it done, but I love the way this group fights.
Do you let yourself live in that world? Like, if you don't turn the ball over on the punt return, what would have happened on that drive? What did you have planned for them? Yeah. It seemed like you had momentum.
Yeah, we had a lot of momentum, and I still felt like we had momentum, in spite of that, because our defense gets a stop. They missed a field goal, and, a couple plays here or there, and maybe we get a chance to punch it in, and then we would have gone for 2, if we had scored there. But, the biggest thing, too, even just talking with John Fossil earlier today, his dad was a coach, had a lot of success. There was 174 total plays in that game, and it's amazing that, let's just say from the 18-yard line, if we end up hitting that, and then you end up going for 2 and you convert it, there's still 173 plays that we've got to do a good job of coaching, looking at ourselves inwardly about what we can do to be better. Sometimes you just get so caught up in whether you win or lose, and, I think that's where we always talk about the process over the results, and that is important because we feel like more times than not, if we do take good care of the football, if we play with the fundamentals, the techniques that we want, if we handle the situations the right way, then our process focusing on those things, doing those little things the right way consistently will lead to the results over time, as opposed to finding a way to get back in it. If you do make those plays, that's still not conducive for winning football over time, whether we were able to get that done or not yesterday.
What I'm hearing there is that it seems like the feeling within the building is it's still within the Rams' control to get it right, not just in the final 2 weeks of the regular season, but teeing yourselves up for what's beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not going to allow these 2 games to define us, and we're going to look at these things and say, okay, are these things that are correctable? What are the issues? Why we're not doing some of the things that maybe we were doing earlier in the year, or what are the things that we can do as coaches to continually try to put our players in good situations? And these are all things that, we try to be honest with ourselves about, but we feel like they're all fixable. We trust that our players are, we've got a lot of great players in our building. We trust in our coaching staff, and we feel like we're going to get this thing figured out.
Not easier or harder. I think league-wide, everybody goes through this, either win or lose. You have to self-evaluate. But is it tougher because you are a playoff team? If this was a losing team, I think it would be easier. The season's over in 2 weeks, but you are moving on. Does it make it tougher to make those adjustments to get better?
That's a good question. I think, no matter how you cut it, we've got to get better. That's our job, as coaches, is to critically look at ourselves and figure out, what can we do to continuously improve. And we focus on that all the time, and our players have the same mindset. But I think there's an increased level of, I don't even want to say an increased level of urgency, but I think there's no reason to press the panic button. Let's look at why we're not getting some of these things done that maybe we did prior to, these last handful of weeks. What are the issues? Address it, and we move forward, and we go about our process the same way with our weekly rhythm and try to, ultimately perform better.
Because I had a wrestling match with my brother about this. He said he saw the sideline and he saw guys smiling and laughing when they were losing. I said, well, you have to remember, this is a playoff football team. Mm-hmm. This is a team that's won 11 games. They have the right to feel good about themselves no matter what's going on the field right now. Is that fair?
Yeah. I think there's an element of, if guys are smiling and laughing when we're playing from behind or not doing things, we don't want that. It's serious. We're trying to win every single week, and I didn't get that sense, but I'm not seeing everything. What I did like, DeMarco, was the sense that I got from our team. When you go down 30-13, they're going in for scoring position, and it looks real dark, and Aqib Talib makes a play, gives us a little bit of momentum. We find a way to get some points. They get another stop. We get a touchdown, and then we know how the last bit of the game unfolded. But that says a lot, and those are things that you can really draw on from a positive with the way that these guys continue to compete. And you say, imagine if we had done things that are very fixable, whether it's making an uncharacteristic decision that leads to a turnover, whether it's missing a standard blitz pickup on a 3rd and 2 when we've got a man beater and Robert Woods coming across the formation. All the things that really, ultimately led to us not getting it done, we feel like are very fixable, correctable, and I think our players are receptive to that as well.
He's the head coach of the Rams, Sean McVay. I'm JB Long with DeMarco Farr here in Thousand Oaks, live on ESPN LA 710. Coach, you mentioned a couple of times now you were planning to go for 2 if you're able to get that tie and score. Can you give us a sense of what was going on behind the scenes that would have led you to that decision given all the game circumstances?
Yeah, I think really, you just feel the momentum, and if you feel good about a 2-point play that you can activate, which we had in our back pocket, that was kind of what would have led to that decision. So, usually those things are kind of a gut feel and an instinct just based on what we feel like is best at the time, and, kind of specific to, you wish that had come up to be able to even make that decision, but, similar to when we ended up going forward on 4th and 1 at Seattle earlier in the season, I think the momentum that we had, if you said you feel good about the play, the player's ability to execute from 2 yards out to win the football game, that's something that we probably would have done yesterday.
Well, the thing that I keep coming away with when I think about this game is Todd Gurley's a warrior.
Yeah.
An absolute monster out there. I mean, you can tell he was in pain or in some discomfort, but he kept coming back, kept trying to make plays.
Yeah, he did. And you could see it was bothering him, pretty early on in that game. Like you said, really no other way to put it other than he's a warrior. Really gutted it out, made some big time plays. They gave us a chance, and you just appreciate guys like that.
I heard you tell the assembled media about an hour ago that you're optimistic about his chances for Week 16 in Arizona.
Yeah, we are. It's going to be a day-to-day thing, but I think just based on the way that he came in today. Just a little bit of inflammation, but nothing that was too concerning as far as, things going on inside there. And we feel, optimistic is a good word to use about him, being ready to go this week if that's what we feel like is best.
On that final sequence, did he have a path to get out of bounds on that right sideline?
Yeah, he did. And that's what you love about Todd. First thing he says in the locker room, you tell him how much you appreciate the way he battled. And, his mindset is I got to do a better job of getting out of bounds and giving us a chance to maybe get a couple more plays off. So, you'd like to be able to get out of bounds right there, but when you have that mindset and that kind of response, then you trust that you can learn from that, and when those things do come up inevitably in the future, we trust that he's going to get out of bounds, and our players use those as learning options, opportunities, I should say, really for everybody, in some of those instances that came up.
So many other instances we could point to, be it Green Bay or at Detroit, where he has managed those game situations so well. Certainly no doubt about Todd Gurley's ability in those circumstances. All right, wrapping up segment number 1. When we continue tonight, we'll have a preview of that game with the Cardinals in Arizona, plus a segment we call Audibles, your questions from social media directly to the head coach of the Rams, Sean McVay. With DeMarco Farr, I'm JB Long. Glad you're with us on ESPN LA 710. Well, good evening once again, everyone. Hope you're having a great Monday night. DeMarco, JB, and the head coach of the Los Angeles Rams, Sean McVay. Just happened to have the low light there of,
nice soundbite there.
Goff getting stepped on. Apologies. That's no way to start segment number 2 of the Coach McVay Show. But since
not
we're
coming on this show anymore.
You don't have to.
Come on.
Perfect. But why don't we just go through that since we happen to be bringing it up in conversation?
Yeah, that was a really unfortunate situation. We had a play on where, they were in a zero blitz. That's kind of what we had hoped for in that situation. And we just got tangled up coming away from the center. And sometimes when that happens, we don't want to make any, try to make too much happen, especially in that situation. The thing that's great about Jared is he's so receptive to learning from those things. And, he's trying to make a play, but, sometimes making a play in that situation is taking the sack, letting Hecker come on and punt it right there, instead of kind of making what starts off, being a bad play when we trip out, and making it worse and giving them a short field where Corey Graham ends up getting what's registered as an interception right there, and then they punch it in, on that next sequence that when their offense comes out. But again, everything is a learning opportunity depending upon responding, looking at it in the right way, and that's what Jared does. That's what our players do, and that right there is an unfortunate circumstance where you have to learn the hard way.
From the outside, we look at Jared Goff since the bye. We see the statistics take a dip. Internally, I know you guys don't look at 3 games in aggregate. You look at play-by-play and evaluate. What's kind of the story within there in terms of how he is playing since the bye, regardless of what the collective stats say?
Yeah, you sit down and you watch, because there was a lot of opportunities just based on being a 2-minute situation really at the end of the game for a handful of possessions, and then even at the end of the first half. He made a lot of good decisions. Moved around in the pocket, manipulated it, got a bunch of completions. Thought the 3rd and 10 throw to Josh Reynolds for 33 yards that was originally ruled a touchdown that then we ended up punching in a couple plays later with Todd was a great rhythm throw. He hits his back foot, takes 2 hitches, and drives it on a rope for about 25 yards on a big 3rd and 10, to score a touchdown. But everybody points to, the 2 turnovers where we had the interception earlier in the game, and then we end up having that turnover on that nice sound bite that you guys had. And, the great thing is that, unfortunately those cost you. That's not a representation of the entire body of work, but what it is a good indicator for us and a good reminder is that there's nothing, other than points that's more important than taking care of the football to give yourself a chance to win games in this league. We know that we can't afford to put our defense in some of those short fields that led to them getting points from it. So, we'll learn from it, but every single play, each play is its own entity. There was a lot of good things that he did do, and, we'll take those positives. We'll learn from some of the negatives, and we'll move forward, and I know he'll do the same.
Got to protect the rock. But don't you love this point right now, trying to figure out how to get out of this? Trying to figure out how to be better from this point. Don't you love this as a coach?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, really, it's easy when things are going well. And, we sit up here and we say, be mentally tough, all those different things. And now you get really tested to see if you can be what you say. We talk about it all the time, DeMarco. We see better than we hear. It's one thing to say it. I want to see us do it every single day. And I'm a big part of that. We're a big part of that as coaches, players. We're all in this thing together. And, we're going to climb our way out. And really, the best part is there's really no magic potion that we have to look for. It's going back to the core fundamentals, the techniques, our football philosophy, taking better care of the football, getting it back on defense, and handling the situations the right way. Things that we have done, but we get back to emphasizing it, doing the little things the right way. We got the talent in this locker room. We got the coaches. We got the right people in place. And, part of working through some of this adversity is what will make it even more special when you come out swinging on the right end of it.
I think the silliest thing I hear is, look at the next 2 teams they play. They're 3 wins and 2 wins. Those should be easy. Obviously, you've never played football before.
Correct.
Yeah, it's never easy.
Yeah, every single week. You just look at it. Seattle was having a great momentum going, and San Fran does a great job of finding a way to get a win in overtime against them yesterday. Arizona went out to Green Bay and ended up getting a win. So there's a lot of things that you never take for granted. You just look at over the last couple weeks, you look around and look at the box scores week in and week out, and you realize why it's such a competitive league and why you got to be ready to go and why it can be a humbling league as well.
Transition a little bit to the defense, and one of the silver linings I thought was the job that your defense did against Ertz, who's having a prolific season, perhaps a record-setting season. John Johnson and others combining on a nice night to limit his touches.
Yeah, they did a great job. I thought our coaches put together a good plan. The players then ultimately executed it. John Johnson, I thought, had a great game the other day. Made a lot of plays. It was a big red zone stop by really he and Aqib when they were in a double on him on a 3rd down where they kind of tried to fit in a little seam post to him. But they did a nice job slowing him down for sure.
Why was Alshon Jeffrey so problematic, do you think, on the other side of the equation?
Yeah, I think he made some plays. He's always been a guy that when he's right as far as just his health and you give him an opportunity, he runs better than people think. He's got elite ball skills down the field. And I thought he was able to make a couple plays. He ends up having 8 catches and a handful of yards. But, he made some plays, and you give him credit why he's been a pretty prolific player in this league for a handful of years.
A giraffe and cleats, that's what I saw.
I agree.
Yeah.
He went up over the top and made some big plays. And, he had a good night.
I thought you guys were that close to, I don't want to say breaking Foles, but really putting some doubt in his head. And I thought you let him get out of trouble a few too many times and let him get going, let him get some momentum.
Well, there was a couple times, whether it was Ndamukong or Aaron, both got to him, right before and then kind of throws up some pop flies, and they ended up coming down with some. And, we just continue to compete. But, credit them. They made some plays. But I thought we did a handful of really good things on defense. The 4th down stop, the turnover by Aqib really was what got the momentum going to get ourselves back in that game. Even after we had fumbled the punt, LJ's play on 2nd down to be able to knife through there on a pressure and take him down for a 5-yard loss. We got to figure out how we could get that clock operator to get that thing stopped before the 2-minute right there and get the 40-second clock going right away. That would have been pretty helpful to get that extra 40 seconds. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
What the heck? So
you talk about some of the contact that Foles took to get balls downfield. One of them in the third quarter, the 50-yarder where Jeffrey and Aguilar kind of running free.
Yeah.
Can you give us some context in terms of what went wrong there defensively?
Yeah, I mean, we were in a single high structure. There was some miscommunication going on, and typically you see certain route combinations, and sometimes when you have such smart, aware players, they can anticipate some of the things that occur. But that was a little bit different route combination. They had two guys going vertical. I don't think they probably wanted them in that, how close they were in proximity. Ertz was an underneath, kind of has some flare control at about 8 to 10 yards. But, Alshon went up and got it, and he made a play there.
Just to transition to Aaron Donald for a moment, we've seen what the last two teams have done to try and limit his impact on the game. Kind of the corresponding question is, who else needs to show up, or how come other players aren't showing up in one-on-one type situations with all the attention he's getting?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, when you look at it, whether Chicago or whether it's Philly, they did a nice job of mixing up the launch point, the ball coming out quick in a timely manner, doing some different things, but Aaron's impact in the game, when you've got to be that cognizant of a player, it does free some people up. You'd have to really look at each individual play and say, what are they trying to get done? Who does that give a free up op to? But really, it's about our defense playing well. They did some really good things. There's a couple things that we can learn from, but Aaron's impact in the game, whether it shows up in the stats or not, in a variety of ways, and he is, nothing has changed in terms of the product. Maybe just the production on the stats, but the impact he's having on the game doesn't change, and he's been instrumental for our defense.
All right, that's segment number 2 with head coach Sean McVay tonight from Thousand Oaks. Still to come, a segment we call Audibles. Your questions posed directly to the head coach, and we will finish with a preview of Week 16 in Arizona against the Cardinals. Glad you're with us tonight, a Monday night, live from Thousand Oaks on ESPN LA 710. All right, here we go with segment number 3, still to come. One of our favorite segments, Audibles, the finale, and then a preview of the Cardinals. I want to start this segment, Coach, by asking, it's been a long time since I think there's been anything approaching bulletin board material from the outside that you might be able to use as motivation, but I'm not sure you're even interested in that. In terms of if there are doubters on the outside after 2 straight losses, is that of any interest to you in terms of how you deploy it with your players?
Yeah, not really, because we don't care about what's said outside of our building. We care about our players, our coaches, staying connected, doing what we can to play good complementary football, to have a great week of preparation that hopefully leads to cleaner performances. And that's where, when you look at over the last handful of weeks, say what you want, like we've talked about earlier in the show. When you say we need to get it figured out in a hurry, really, sometimes you say things after a game. The bottom line is we need to just do the little things the right way that we're very capable of doing. And that's focusing on not beating ourselves, doing the techniques, the fundamentals that we're coached to do within the framework of every given play, handling situations the right way. And like we've done at spurts, we got to take great care of the football. Nothing's more important than the football, and then we got to get it back on defense. And if we do those things, that's winning football formula, and that's what we expect to do as we move forward and learn from, where some things haven't worked out the way that we'd like.
How eager are you to get back to the grass, get back to practice, get back out there?
Every day you're eager. Whether you win or lose, you're just eager about finding a way to get better every single day. And there is a little bit extra hunger, desire, when things, when you're going through a little bit of a rough patch, if you will. But anybody that's a competitor, this, DeMarco. You show me a great competitor, I'll show you a guy that's fought through some things, and I bet you those tough times make you appreciate the good ones even more, because you found a way. It's if it's easy all the time, then there's really no joy in the journey and having to actually work through some different things where you truly get tested, and you kind of almost cherish and relish it a little bit.
Any of those game situations you can rep out there? Like something that happens, some sort of situation, quick change, what have you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can mimic and emulate, those end-of-the-game situations, end of the half. There's a situation, even yesterday you learned from when we've got 18 seconds left. If we've got a completion, talking about at the end of the first half, we can still hit Robert Woods on the crossing route and be able to get it clocked in enough time to be able to take one more attempt or come on and kick a field goal. So it's all about just learning. And again, it's educating the coaches and our players, so that we learn from these as well in terms of how to, give the clarity to the players with regards to how we want to handle these situations. Can it go in bounds? Does it have to get to the end end zone, all those different types of things that come up week in and week out, and you can absolutely create these scenarios in practice.
Speaking of those end-of-half situations, 4 end zone shots, I believe 3 at the end of the first half, the final play of the game, all kind of targeted for Josh Reynolds.
Yep.
Are there any commonalities between those plays in your eyes?
Yeah, the one, that's kind of what we were talking about, that it's a good learning opportunity for us, where on that first one, when they're playing off and soft, we could still complete a shallow cross. Josh just happened to be the individual that was running a vertical on that specific play call. And then on the last 2, it was really, he was in a location where, he was one of those people that had an isolation, and it was kind of an us or nobody type deal. And with his length, we felt, like that was something that we wanted to be able to do. At the end of the game, really they ended up bringing that guy from that 6 blitzer from his right side. So that was kind of where Jared's short field vision was right there. But, we have confidence in Josh, but a lot of it was predicated on where that ISO was, and it really ended up being kind of outside in that instance.
One of the things that I think a lot of people have noticed is the lack of explosives coming off of the bye week. And it was something that your offense was known for throughout this season, even going back to last season. I'm sure that's of concern, top of mind for you. How specifically do you think you can get back on track in that regard so you don't have to dink and dunk down the field?
Well, I think a lot of it's predicated on what they're presenting and our ability to execute versus some of those looks. You look at the Detroit game, we had a couple plays that were some good positive plays. You end up hitting Cooks at the end of the half for like 26 yards. Todd had a couple long runs. But again, then, you're playing a game to win. At the end, we didn't do enough good things, but really our defense played well, and we found a way to win the game and sustain some drives at the end, which is, ultimately what our goal is. Then when you look at Chicago, really there wasn't a lot of positives to take from that. And I certainly feel like, I didn't do nearly a good enough job. We had Robert on the seam. That was probably the only play, I think for like 29 that we ended up hitting there. And then yesterday, they played a lot of split safety top-down coverage. That's why I think, you can't, sometimes just being patient, taking underneath completions is being smart. And that's what I thought Jared did in a lot of instances. And then he picks and chooses his spots to be able to activate. He ended up hitting Josh Reynolds for 33 yards on the seam post. We ended up hitting Robert Woods for 18 on a sideline, play action. We hit Brandon for 20 on the left sideline. So there were some good positives. Todd had a 21-yard run. So it depends on where you look at those explosives. Even when you go back to Seattle, when I thought that was a pretty clean, efficient game back at home, which seems like an eternity ago, really the only play we had over 30 yards was a 35-yard, long third down conversion to Robert Woods. So really what it's about is if we're able to create in some chunks, that might even be 10 to 12 yards or 15, but staying efficient, not getting behind the chains and avoiding some of those third and longs and not taking some of those penalties, taking care of the football, that's good, efficient football. You like to create the explosives all the time, but if they're playing coverages top down or different things, you want to take what they're giving you and be efficient in the way that we operate.
Gerald Everett, eyelash away from having a big game. I mean, open everywhere. The shot in the end zone was there.
Yeah.
Just a little off target.
Yep. We had a chance on that, but Gerald's doing a good job. He's making the most. I thought he did a good job with some catch transitions, making some plays, and he's getting better and better.
Thanks again for taking those questions. We'll turn it over to our audience next. Audible's coming your way in segment number 4 of the Coach McVay Show, live on a Monday night from Cal Lutheran. This is ESPN LA 710. All right, let's dig into Audible segment number 4 here with the head coach of the Rams, Sean McVay, DeMarco Farr. I'm JB Long. This one comes from the UK coach, and Tomo from Twitter asks, with mental health being an increasingly prominent talking point in sports, wondering if Reggie's team here with the Rams includes someone who works on that aspect of health with the team.
Yeah, I mean, we have the availability to be able to, talk with whether it's sports psychologists, different things like that. That's a big part of it. Certain guys have their own routines that's specific to them individually, but, that's an important part of it. Just the ebbs and flows, making sure that your mind is in a good place, specific to all the things that, not only with the sport, but just with what you deal with outside the framework of some of the pressures that naturally come with it. But I would say this, we have the availability to give them direction. That's not something that we have in our building, but if players want to be able to utilize some of those things, we can point them in the right direction, and then guys sometimes have their own specific approach as well.
All right, Audibles, your questions from social media directly to the head coach. Question number 2 from Fred on Twitter. Do you have a routine in terms of how you break down the game film in preparation for your team meetings, and do you also participate in the film watching with the defense on a week-to-week basis?
Yeah, we do. I make sure that I'm in tune with what's going on, and number one, just to, be connected to the staff and the players and have an idea, just to, always continuing to try to learn, but make sure that we feel like we're doing things the right way. And, we do that. There's a specific routine that we follow, the day after the game with how we evaluate and how we do it. That routine in terms of just the approach that we feel like is best in terms of how to present this information to the players, changes based on the week, the situation. But in terms of watching it, making sure that you're in tune with it, we have a consistent rhythm with our coaches.
How soon do you see it after a game?
Within
hours?
No, it depends. If it's a good one, usually I can enjoy a couple beverages and trust that I'll watch it tomorrow and be able to relax. If it's something that usually stirs you up pretty good, you're watching that pretty quickly to try to make sure that you kind of flush it out of your system, but you want to look at it, look at the things that you can do better that we can correct, and then you move on from it. So again, very situationally driven.
To Instagram next, an LA Ram asks, why can't the Rams play with the same urgency and fire that showed up at the end of the game last night, Sunday Night Football, throughout the game or from the beginning of the game?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it had anything to do with urgency and fire. I would just have I would say that it's a result of, making some uncharacteristic things, whether it was turning the football over, some different things that occurred, really in all three phases that, we just kind of put ourselves behind the eight ball, and everybody had a hand in it. But I think the mindset that they displayed to be able to get back into it, says a lot about our team, like we've said kind of over and over throughout this show. But I would just say it was more of a result of kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. And then you do want to give the Eagles some credit for, forcing us into some of those bad plays as well.
Eric is up next. Coach, last night I guess LaDainian Tomlinson said on NFL Game Day post-game that he thought the problem with the offense is missing Cooper Kupp. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, I mean, I think that, we've missed Cooper for a lot of games. And, to replace a player of Cooper's caliber, you don't ever replace somebody like him. To say that we couldn't use him, we definitely could. We could also use Malcolm Brown right now, too. So to say that we're missing Cooper, yeah, we're missing him. But I don't think that's a reflection on anything that Josh Reynolds has or hasn't done. But to replace a player like Cooper with what he does, that's tough to do.
It was good to see him yesterday, though. Just walking around amongst the team.
Oh, yeah, it's great to see him. Great to see, Malcolm was there too. Yeah. But, really, Cooper's been – you love Cooper, man. He's a great football player. He's a great person. And it's I miss my guy out there with us. I really do.
From Twitter, Jersey Ram is up next. How confident are you, Coach McVay, with your special teams at this point with Natson and Cooper potentially struggling here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that very confident in JoJo. One return. We talk about 2 games aren't going to define our season. One return from JoJo where he mishandled the ball doesn't define the confidence that we have in him. We never allow one play to equate to our entire judgment on somebody. We make sure that we make sound decisions. We have confidence in him. With Farrell, I thought he made some good decisions. When he fielded the ball in play, he ended up getting vertical and got some positive yards last night. So, still have confidence in those guys.
And very nearly converted a fake punt to Kaderil Hodge on the right side.
Yeah, that was a tough one. We got to. We'll make that play more times than not, but that one didn't work out for us.
Joe asks on Twitter, are you getting any sleep? As simple as that. Is Coach McVay getting sleep?
Yeah, I'm getting sleep. I know that it doesn't do me any good to try to just, work yourself into a lather. You got to make sure that you take care of yourself, and I am getting some sleep.
All right, next up, Bruce. Any thought about getting some of the rookies like Brian Allen, Joe Noteboom, Micah Kaiser some work in the tail end of this regular season?
If that's what we feel like is going to be best to win the game, then we'll do that. Those guys are players that we have confidence in their ability, what they've done to demonstrate some development specific to practice. Those younger O-linemen have gotten a chance to get in there. Mike has done a really nice job in a special teams role, making a wide variety of contributions for Bones and our special teams units. But, right now we're going to, continue to do what we can to try to go win a football game in Arizona.
DeMarco, all yours here. I just want to tag that by saying Val had a similar question, and I'll mention her just so she can pass along. Keep your head up, Coach. Our fans love you and believe in you. So that's courtesy of Val.
I was going to say, Allen, he reminds me of like a walking dust-up.
Yeah.
You can tell this kid can't wait to play.
Yeah, he's tough. He's going to be a really good player, we feel like. And he came in Chicago. You can definitely feel it wasn't too big for him. Looks stout, looks strong, looks sturdy. He's got a nice way about himself, too, where you can see very confident, secure individual, not afraid to make mistakes. And guys like that, I like being around.
And no neck.
Yeah, you like
None.
that too.
No neck at all. Love it.
That's right.
Byron, with our next question, I think he's heard you use the term situational masters or situational mastery, and he's wondering how the Rams can get back to that in terms of their mental focus. Anything you're planning on to kind of spark that mentally sound football in the final two
I think
games?
you keep coaching it. I think we keep putting our players in those situations so you can think through it. You know, the amount of situations that can come up specific to the last 2 minutes of the end of the half, the end of the game, are just, there's so many different things. But as long as we learn from it, everybody puts themselves in a position where they're thinking clearly, we're handling those things the right way with urgency and awareness, then we think we can get back to that. But that's something that will be a point of emphasis. It always has been, but we haven't done a good enough job coaching it, giving our players the clarity, and if we do that, we feel like it'll translate to them doing it on the field.
Don't you wish you were playing tomorrow? Like
Yes.
now? Like let's just line up and play right now?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wish there were rematches. Like you can just push the reset button. Let's do this again right now.
I hear you.
Yeah, don't get on the bus. Come on back out. Four more quarters.
No question.
Yeah.
Video game mentality.
Why not?
Marco.
Come on.
Just reset it. All right, that's the season finale of Audibles, this final episode of the Coach McVay Show, the 2018 regular season. Thanks as always, Coach, for taking those questions from our audience, and we will preview the matchup with the Cardinals on the other side, our final segment of the Coach McVay Show on ESPN LA 710. All right, those back-to-back losses, they're in the rear view mirror. Week 16 on the horizon, a trip to Arizona, the final regular season road trip. We continue with a final segment of the Coach McVay Show live from Thousand Oaks with DeMarco Farr. I'm J.B. Long, and Coach, the Cardinals having a rough season coming off a 40-14 loss against the Falcons. This is a franchise your group has had good success against, but anytime you hit the road for a division opponent, especially with the state that your team is in, I'm sure this is a big challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Every week in the NFL is, and you don't take anybody for granted. We respect the Cardinals. We have a lot of respect for their players, their coaching staff, and we got to be ready to go. And they've got great players that are very disruptive on both sides of the football, and it's something that we'll never take them lightly, and we've got to be ready.
Cam Dietschy getting off the bus is scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. When he puts pads on, that is a big joker.
It is, and I want to say that Chandler Jones is continuing to have another great year. He's done an outstanding job getting Marcus Golden back, where he missed when we played them earlier in the year. I think he's a really good player coming off the edge, and Patrick Peterson's still one of the premier corners in this league. So they've got some pretty elite players on that side of the football.
You guys know where your franchise is in terms of quarterback and where Josh Rosen was planning to go. I'm sure there wasn't much study done there, but what are your impressions of him as a quarterback going back to his UCLA days and now his first pro season?
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of things that excite you. You watch some of the plays that he's been able to make so far. It's been pretty impressive, and I think he's seeing coverage well. He's got a nice touch and trajectory on his deep balls. He can move and manipulate the pocket. So he's got some things. When you flip the tape on, you see why he was picked where he was, and I think he's continuing to get better. And these experiences where he's playing a lot of football right now, if he takes it the right way, which you probably think he will, these will be great learning opportunities for him, and that he can take into the final few games this season and then moving on into next year.
This might be the last time you see Larry Fitzgerald on the field. You never know.
Yeah. What a great player. What a great person he is. Just such an incredible competitor. One of those guys that's such a great advocate for the NFL, not only for the Cardinals but really for the NFL, and first ballot Hall of Famer.
For teams or for fan bases that don't make the annual trip to Glendale, I think it's one of the more underrated venues in terms of home field advantage, crowd noise, the way that their crowd can impact games. Going there every year as you do and as these Rams do, I'm sure you're keenly familiar with that.
Yeah, I agree. Last year, I remember thinking it was a rocking atmosphere, really loud. We had a lot of we had some issues, just with our cadence and some different things going on, and they do a great job. It's a good venue. Always enjoy going there.
Looks like a toaster from the outside, though. I'm just saying. That's just me.
More like a toaster oven, right? They slide the grass out, they grow it outside,
cool,
and
there you go.
Bring it back in for the game.
What do you want for Christmas this year? Don't say a win.
Why not?
I mean, come on, give me something.
I want us.
What can we buy you for Christmas?
I want us to start. I want us to have a good performance that I think is indicative of who we really are as a football team. Getting back to doing those little things the right way, and that'll be a great Christmas for me.
How do I put that in a box?
You don't.
Oh, okay. Just checking. Yeah, all right.
Well, since we can't give you that, at least not in tangible form, we'll just say a thank you. This is the highlight of our week, getting to know you better and hear your insight, win or lose. Sorry to end on a down note, but we appreciate the hour we get to spend with you.
No, I always enjoy it. It was another enjoyable week, except for some of the sound bites coming back from commercial break.
We will make a mental note for 2019. I wish you the best of health, the best of luck the rest of the way, and a deep run in the postseason. Sean McVay
Sounds
here
good.
on
Thanks,
a
guys.
Monday night at Cal Lutheran in Thousand Oaks. DeMarco, just to preview our week a little bit before we make our final road trip, Rams All Access coming our way on Thursday.
Yep.
You've got Between the Horns with Miles Simmons.
On Wednesday. Lots of fun.
And we will also have a Rams Revealed podcast on all your platforms, including therams.com, with John Johnson. He's back in the ring this week.
Pro Bowl. Oh, did I say that out loud? Oh, okay.
No, his teammates have, and Sean, you were very complimentary of the season that he's had and the game that he had against the Philadelphia Eagles last night. So look for that on all your platforms, iTunes, Spotify, etc. For DeMarco Farr, I'm JB Long, and for the head coach, Sean McVay. We'll call it a night here from Cal Lutheran in Thousand Oaks. The Rams are 11-3. They finish at Arizona, home to San Francisco. Again, to clinch a bye, the magic number is 2. Any combination of Rams wins, Bears losses along the way. Week 16 will be in Glendale, Arizona.
How about a gift card? Can I try that?
Yeah, that'd be good.
There you go. Okay. Put it in a gift card.